Does melatonin help improve your sleep, or is it simply a waste of money and potentially even dangerous? Melatonin is the most popular ingredient used in sleep supplements. Pop a pill and go right to sleep. What you may not know is that melatonin is actually a hormone that we produce in our brains that regulates sleep-wake cycle. In part, it's responsible for making you feel sleepy at night right before going to bed. If you search melatonin and sleep on PubMed, which is pretty much the Google for medical research, you'll come across dozens of studies discussing the benefits of melatonin for sleep. That being said, some health experts, including Dr. Andrew Huberman, professor of neurobiology at Stanford, suggest avoiding melatonin supplementation due to potential adverse health effects. The 4 major claims against the use of melatonin as a supplement include 1. The claim that melatonin is a hormone. You can't purchase other hormones like testosterone or cortisol over the counter because of their potential health effects. So why can you buy melatonin? The second claim is that melatonin may suppress the onset of puberty since it suppresses something called the hypothalamic pituitary gonadal axis, or the HPG axis, which is involved in the production of testosterone and estrogen. The third claim against melatonin supplementation is that the amount of melatonin in supplements can range from 15% to 400% of what's actually reported. And the last claim is that the effects of melatonin are minimal at best. These claims can sound pretty scary and may even cause you to shy away from using melatonin. However, in order for these claims to be factual, they need to be supported by clinical research showing that melatonin supplementation is indeed dangerous. Speculation is fine, but it's not concrete evidence that you should avoid using something. Let's start by discussing the first claim that melatonin is a hormone. When we think of hormones, we tend to immediately think of steroids like testosterone, which can have serious adverse health effects if not used responsibly. However, that's not what the word hormone means. The word hormone itself just means a molecule that's secreted from one tissue, travels through the body, and exerts its effects on other tissues. For example, the hormone cortisol is secreted by the adrenal glands, travels through our blood, and exerts its effects on different tissues like the heart, muscle tissue, and pancreas. In other words, the word hormone by definition refers to the mode of transmission and not the effect of the molecule. Hormones regulate most of our physiological functions, and they have complex interactions with each other as well. However, just because something is a hormone does not make it inherently dangerous. In many instances, using hormone therapy as a treatment for low hormone production is actually extremely helpful. For example, individuals with low testosterone have improved libido, mood, and quality of life with little to no side effects when prescribed testosterone replacement therapy. Although I recommend that you should always be careful with what you supplement with and weigh the potential risks to benefits, we shouldn't vilify an entire classification of molecules just because they're hormones. Next, let's address the second claim that melatonin may suppress the onset of puberty in children. Nocturnal melatonin concentrations are highest in children ages 1 to 3 years old and slowly drop throughout childhood until the children reach puberty. Furthermore, melatonin suppresses the release of a hormone called gonadotropin-releasing hormone, or GnRH for short, which is released from the hypothalamus and stimulates the release of testosterone and estrogen from the gonads. For these 2 reasons, some health experts claim that melatonin inhibits the onset of puberty. That being said, there isn't much evidence that melatonin supplementation actually slows down the onset of puberty. For example, this narrative review included 3 studies that investigated the relationship between melatonin supplementation and the onset of puberty in children, and concluded that there is little to no evidence that melatonin supplementation impacts the onset of puberty. There are some limitations to these conclusions though. These studies were observational in nature, not interventional. In other words, these studies looked at the relationship between melatonin usage in children and the onset of puberty. They did not actually provide a melatonin supplementation in a controlled clinical setting. Overall, there simply isn't enough research yet to make conclusive statements on whether or not melatonin slows down the onset of puberty in children. Nonetheless, it's important to note that most sleep supplements are not marketed towards children, and anything given to a child should be administered under medical supervision. But what if you're past puberty? Are you in the clear? Well, some health experts suggest that you should avoid melatonin even if you're an adult, because it could potentially mess with certain hormones. But again, there really isn't any strong scientific data to support this. When I was scripting this video, I was doing some reading on this topic and I came across one research study that looked at the effects of melatonin supplementation on hormones associated with the HPG, or the hypothalamic pituitary axis. Remember earlier, I mentioned that melatonin inhibits a hormone called GnRH, which is responsible for the release of testosterone and estrogen? Well, GnRH regulates the HPG axis. When the hypothalamus releases GnRH, it tells the pituitary to release luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone, which then stimulates the release of testosterone and estrogen from the gonads. supplements. This double-blind placebo-controlled study administered 6 milligrams of melatonin per day for 1 month to healthy males. The researchers then looked at the concentrations of several hormones, including luteinizing hormone, follicle-stimulating hormone, and testosterone. The results showed that melatonin supplementation had no effect on the concentration or pulsatility of any of these hormones. Pulsatility refers to the pulsating nature of hormones throughout the day. Hormone concentrations are not fixed 24/7. Instead, they go up and down throughout the day, just like a pulse. For example, testosterone concentrations are usually highest in the morning and then diminish throughout the day. Although this study found that supplementing with a pretty high dose of melatonin does not adversely affect hormones associated with the HPG axis. Overall, this study provides evidence that supplementing with a pretty high dose of melatonin does not adversely affect the hormones associated with the HPG axis, at least not over 30 days. There is one big downside to this study though. Only 6 participants were included, which is a pretty small sample size. Nonetheless, there are other studies that look at the effects of melatonin supplementation on testosterone in both men and women with larger sample sizes. For example, this cross-sectional study found that melatonin supplementation between 1 to 3 milligrams per day had no association with total testosterone concentration in adult males. Based on an overview of the currently available literature, there isn't any strong data to suggest that taking melatonin as a supplement will negatively impact your hormones. Now, there are some data that suggest that melatonin supplementation may result in some side effects, including headaches, nausea, or dizziness. But the risk of developing any of these side effects is minimal at best. The last 2 complaints against melatonin supplementation, which are dosing being incorrect on supplement labels, as well as its effects on sleep being minimal, will be addressed together. Both of these complaints are valid. There is evidence that some melatonin supplements can vary from -83% to +400% of what's actually reported on the bottle. Although I agree that this is an issue, it's not an inherent danger of melatonin supplementation. Instead, it just points out a flaw in the current manufacturing practices. Just so you know, inaccurate reporting is an issue across the entire supplement industry, and it's not just unique to melatonin. Furthermore, the argument that supplementing with melatonin only provides mild sleep benefits is true, but again, is not a strong argument against its use. Melatonin has been shown to have mild improvements in sleep-related outcomes, particularly sleep onset, in individuals with primary sleep disorders such as primary insomnia. But the benefits do not come close to some prescription medications like benzodiazepines. Guess what? Most legal over-the-counter supplements only provide small to moderate benefits. For example, creatine, which is by far the most effective legal supplement for improving performance and muscle mass, doesn't come anywhere close to the effectiveness of illegal anabolic steroids. Overall, the claims that some health experts make against melatonin supplementation have some merit. However, they're highly speculative and not strongly supported by the research literature. Any supplement you choose to consume may carry some risk, and it's your job to weigh the pros and cons of using it. For many people, the sleep benefits of taking melatonin may outweigh some of its quote-unquote potential risks. Based on the available evidence though, I think melatonin seems to be a safe supplement that can be used to improve sleep. In case you didn't know, I'm a scientific advisor for Outwork Nutrition, and we recently released our newest product, Sleep, which is dosed with 2 milligrams of melatonin alongside other ingredients that improve sleep. If you're in the market for a sleep supplement, make sure to check us out. The link to our website will be in the description of this video. Make sure to use code Joey for a 10% discount off of your first purchase. All right guys, that wraps up this video. Peace.